Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Indiana County Auditors Association's affiliate meeting that's being held as part of the Indiana Association of Counties newly elected official training. We are so happy that you could join us today. Whether you are a brand newly elected county auditor or an incumbent who was just re-elected last month, or whether you are a seasoned auditor who wasn't even on the ballot but are joining us, we are so happy that you are here to share discussion and educational topics that affect our work as county auditors. We want to congratulate you on your victory and your dedication to serving the taxpayers in what could be considered the most challenging but also most fulfilling job there is in county government. Now we're going to begin our session today with an introduction of the officers who are here participating in today's session. And I'll go first. I am Vicki Urbanik. I'm Porter County Auditor, and I am the 2021 Association President. I am honored and humbled to have this position. I am really excited about the coming year. I think we're going to have a lot of really good programs coming up. I am from Porter County, and Porter County is from Northwest Indiana. We are just one county over from the Illinois state line. So we are often considered a suburb of Chicago. We are on the shores of Lake Michigan to the north and the banks of the Kankakee River to the south. We are steel country, home to steel production, the steel producing region of our state. We are also home to Indiana's first and so far only, but hopefully not only forever, national park, the Indiana Dunes National Park. It's a magnificent place, and so if you've never visited, please come on up and visit. And now I'll turn it over to the other officers to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, my name is Jennifer Flater. I am the Clay County Auditor. We are located in West Central Indiana, and I am honored to be serving as the President-elect for 2021 this year. And we're just grateful that you're all here with us today and look forward to talking to you shortly.
Hi, good afternoon. Debbie Stevens, I'm Warwick County Auditor, and I have served you as Secretary Treasurer and this year Vice President of the Association. And we love our auditors. We're all here to help you. We've all been in your shoes at one point. I myself came into the auditor's office 6 years ago, having never worked in the auditor's office. And so it was very challenging. And I found friends in the association and as well as our state agencies to lean on. And so just a little bit about me. Warwick County is all the way on the southern border of Indiana. If you drive 10 miles south, you will be in the Ohio River. There's no bridge from Warwick County to Kentucky. So feel free to reach out to me, Warwick County, and happy to help you in any way I can. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Christina Schreiber, the Fulton County Auditor. Our county seat is the city of Rochester on 31, just in between, about halfway between Indianapolis and South Bend. We all have Manitou Lake. I don't know if anyone's familiar. Other than that, we're just down the road from Vicki and next to Marshall County, Stark County, Cass County, Miami County. So if any of those people are close enough, they want to stop in and say hi, that'd be great. Back to you, Vicki.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We do have two people serving with us who could not be here during this session, and that is our past president, Julie Fox. She is the Marshall County Auditor. We also have our secretary nominee, Rachel O. from Stark County, Indiana. We want to begin this program by talking a little bit about the County Auditors Association. Who are we and what do we do? Well, we are a non-for-profit organization that represents all 92 Indiana county auditors. And just like all other nonprofits, we have to file a nonprofit tax return, we have to file a business entity report, and we have a mission statement and bylaws. Now, to paraphrase what our mission statement is, you can find these in the bylaws. We have a three-pronged purpose. We promote the exchange of information that we all need as county auditors to do our jobs effectively. We foster communication or cooperation in such ways as hosting educational seminars, and we promote a unity among county auditors in such ways as promoting legislative changes that can help us do our jobs better. Our organizational structure consists of a board of directors, and you just met some of the officers of the organization. We also have two standing committees, a legislative committee and an education committee. And in addition, our state has been divided into 6 districts by the Auditors Association, and each of these districts is represented by a district vice president, also known as a district chair. So if any of you want to get involved with the association, you might want to contact your district chair and get involved in that way, or get involved with one of the education committees or the legislative committee. We also maintain a website. The website address is very easy to remember. It's indianaauditors.org. And we do try to keep that up, updated with information affecting the association. Now, we sponsor or we host a number of events during the year. Now, obviously, in 2020, we didn't perform the programming that we normally do. But in a normal year, we have the following events. We host regional district meetings. These are organized by the district chairs, and these are educational sessions that are held in each of the districts. We also have the quadrant meetings that are sponsored by the State Board of Accounts. Those are usually held in May. And then following that is our North-South meetings. These are really fantastic, all-day educational meetings where we bring in speakers, sometimes from state agencies, sometimes from external agencies as well. And those are usually held in the month of July. And that's all leading up to our big fall conference. Our fall conference in 2021 will be held here in Indianapolis at the Sheraton Keystone. We also participate in other events throughout the year by having affiliate meetings at other conferences. We always have an affiliate meeting at the AIC's NEO session, which is what is happening right now. We also usually have an affiliate meeting at the AIC's Legislative Conference and the AIC's annual conference and the Indiana County Commissioners Annual Conference. So if any of you county auditors go to any of these conferences, be sure to come to the Auditors Association affiliate meeting. And last but not least, every 2 years we publish a directory. This is full of information that you undoubtedly will use all the time. It shows all of the county auditors' names and contact information. So watch for this coming up next year. Now, just a few moments ago, I mentioned the AIC. We want to thank the AIC for all of their help, for allowing us to use their facilities today to put on this program for you. Now, as we go on with our program, you are free to submit questions. You should be able to see a chat box where you could submit questions, and I understand you can also submit a question via a text, and that text number should be available in the chat. So, without further ado, we're going to get to the presentations. Each of us have a presentation to give to you, and they all revolve around the very important topic, preparing for your first few months as county auditor. And without further ado, here is Jennifer with the next presentation.
Well, good afternoon again. So I'm going to start out with talking to you all about several of the important necessities that you will need to do probably within your first month of office, some of them within the first couple days of office. The first topic will be bonds. and there should be an image that you can see right now. Each auditor is required to make sure that every elected official has a bond on file. With that, once you receive the bonds, you are required to get all the elected officials to sign them and then to get them approved by the appropriate person. So for almost every elected official, the appropriate person to approve the bond is your county commissioner, with the exception of the assessor, and you are responsible for approving theirs. You are also responsible for approving all of the township trustees, but they normally bring those into your office and ask you to approve it, and then you take it to the recorder's office for them to be recorded. After you have everything signed and approved, you then take them to the county recorder's office where they are recorded and kept on file, with the exception of the recorder's bond, which then she takes to the county clerk to keep on file. In my county, I have a local insurance agent who is wonderful to work with. My first year in office, I found out about bonds and we were a little bit late getting everything done, but they are to be in place by December 31st. So hopefully the office holder currently in has this all taken care of for you, but I strongly urge you, your first day in office, to go over to the recorder's office and verify that this has been done. But like I said, I use a local insurance agent, and we now have the understanding that every December the 1st, he brings me in all the bonds. So if anybody changes office, I notify him as soon as the election is over so that he can meet with that person to get the proper paperwork done so that I can have the bond to me by December the 1st. That gives me ample time to go around to get everybody's signatures, get the commissioner to come in and approve everything, and generally speaking, you want the president of the commissioners to approve these, and then take them to the recorder's office to be recorded. The next thing, and bonds, if you refer to the State Board of Accounts Auditor Manual, which is on their website, you will be able to find out how much each person's bond is to be for. The auditor's bond states it is for $30,000, but Clay County has always done $60,000 for the auditor, which matches the sheriff's. So you need to find out what your county is comfortable with and how they want you to proceed with the dollar amount on your bond. The next thing that you'll need to get taken care of pretty quickly is your signature stamp. You will use a signature stamp in your office for a lot of things. Some counties use them for their checks. Some have the checks pre-printed when they are printing those out. The signatures for the auditor and treasurer already come on them, but some counties don't. So you will need to make sure that you get a signature stamp, and normally should be some type of supply person that comes around to your offices. An office, in our county, it's Theme and Office Products, and we just tell them what we need, and then they're wonderful about getting things back to us in a very timely manner. So the next page that I'm hoping that you're seeing on the screen has a signature stamp. It also has a filed stamp. You will use that in the office on several different documents, contracts and different items. And then there is the duly entered for taxation stamp. With that one, you need to bear in mind that when a deed comes into your office and your deed deputy or whomever is at the counter at that particular moment accepts a deed, that they will then stamp the duly entered for taxation and they will sign your name. All of your deputies will have the capability of signing your name, and it is just as if you have signed the document yourself. So bear that in mind. No matter who comes in your staff that signs your name, it is as if you have signed every document there. The next thing that you would want to do is to contact your treasurer and make an appointment with the treasurer to go to your local bank to get your name put on all the checking accounts. You may have multiple banks that you have to go to. In our county, we have money in 2 different banks. So please bear in mind that you will need to go and get that taken care of as quickly as possible so that you can start signing checks January 2nd. And if you are comfortable enough now, you can go ahead and reach out to your treasurer. I was fortunate enough to be in the office when I ran, and therefore the treasurer and I went ahead and made arrangements, and we went in on December 31st and had everything taken care of so it was ready to go on January the 2nd. The next item that I would strongly urge you to do is to take time to meet your vendors. Find out who is your payroll financial, and property tax vendors, you will want to reach out to them because they are going to be a true asset to you for training purposes and to make sure that you are doing everything correctly in a timely manner. Our vendors are such an asset to us that there's just not enough good words I could use to say how much they have helped each one of us in our offices to make sure that everything is done in a timely manner, that it's done accurately. They attend all of our meetings, all of our trainings, and they make sure that they are up on all of the new laws, all of the criteria that State Board of Accounts, the Department of Local Government Finance, provide to us. They are also included in all the emails and all the trainings and just everything that we need to know. So that being said, the next topic will be W-2s and 1095s. As I'm sure you're all aware, W-2s and the 1095Cs are due to your employees by January 31st of each year. Most vendors have already set up dates with each county to have either on-site help or over-the-phone help, or just where they will email out everything to your county, and then if you have questions, they have somebody on standby that can assist you with preparation and making sure that these are submitted in a timely manner. This will be done by your payroll deputy in most counties, and again, they will be working very closely with your payroll and financial vendor. Then on the 1099s, this will be handled by your claims deputy, and you want to have either yourself or your claims deputy go through the list of everybody who was paid in 2020 to make sure that there's a W-9 on file, that you have all the proper documentation, and that you have everything ready, and that the box is checked that they are to receive a 1099. Anybody who receives over $650 from the county should be receiving that 1099 if it's income-based. And if you find one that you have missed after you've prepared and submitted to the state, the nice thing about 1099s is they can easily be resubmitted and corrected. W-2s are a little bit more tricky on that. The next thing is the 1782 notice. The Department of Local Government and Finance has recently changed the way that they do our 1782s and now try to have everything out to the county auditor by December 31st. Of course, there's always circumstances beyond our control, and 2020 has truly been that year of circumstances where they may not have everything done. But you want to verify by calling the Department of Local Government Finance, find out who your budget rep is to see if that has already been emailed out. With the 1782, they are time sensitive. You only have 10 days to respond back. And I know my first year in office, they were mailed out, and I did not receive it because I was not the elected official at the time. And when I took office, I had 3 days left to go in to make sure that all my levies were good and I didn't have to make any changes. And 3 days sounds like a lot of time, but when you're a newly elected person who has never dealt with 1782s before, it became very time sensitive. But they were very gracious and easy to work with to get everything taken care of. So just follow up and make sure if it hasn't been submitted yet that they have your email on file so that you will also receive a copy of it. And if it has been submitted, find out if you can get a copy of it so that you can have that for your record, so that when you start your 2021 year with your new budget amounts, you have everything correct in your records. And last but not least on my list is abatements. Abatements are an interesting part of our job description that we have to deal with. And the DLGF, Department of Local Government Finance, requires us every year to have all the abatements your county received advertised in your local newspapers. So if you have multiple newspapers in your county, it needs to be ran in every edition of newspaper that your county offers. And it has to be done by December 31st of 2020 for the businesses that received an abatement in this year, calendar year. So you need to verify that this was done. If you find out that it was not ran by December 31st, again, reach out to your Department of Local Government Finance budget representative and ask them to give you some guidance and assistance on how you can get that ran as early in January as you can. For those on the W-2s and 1095s, I didn't talk very much on that because they're really the system that you have for your payroll will do almost all the work for you. It is very simple now to get the forms printed and processed, but I did do payroll in my county for 12 years before I ran as the auditor. So if you have any questions on that, please feel free to reach out to me. I would be more than happy to talk with you or have you work with my payroll deputy that we can get you the assistance that you need. And now I am going to turn it over to Christina for our next presentation. Thank you all, and I hope that you have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of December and a Merry Christmas.
I think we were going two different directions on the slide. So since Rachel O. from Stark County was not able to be here to give her presentation, I'm going to try to give her a little bit of justice on what she submitted. So we're going to talk about recurring monthly and biweekly items. IC code 6-3.6 outlines your local income tax. And that all 92 counties receive LIT currently. In 2016, they discussed the change of going from LOIT, the local option income tax, to LIT. So that took it from 15 tax buckets to 5 tax buckets. So that simplified our LIT revenue, I think, quite a bit. So now you have your expenditure rate, which includes your public safety, certified shares, PSAP, and edit, property tax relief, and if a lot of counties probably now are picking up a special purpose rate for jail, building a new jail or remodeling jails. Monthly, you'll receive the amount of LIT from the Auditor of State. She'll send you the remittance. Your treasurer should receipt it in and give you the receipt, and then you will receipt it in on your financial books. To find your units amount, there is a link there. You can go to in.gov/DLGF and go to the county specific information page, and it'll give you the summary of the entire year, and it's just going to be those amounts divided by 12. And then you'll receipt it into, like I said, your specific funds for each of those purposes that you've collected that revenue for. And the Indiana State Auditor's Office usually gets that out within the first 10 days of the month. And this is Rachel's story, so I'll tell it for her. In January 2019 was her first month in office, and someone had called her and says, "Welcome to the office, where's my LIT money?" And she didn't know what LIT was, which hadn't been around very long when she took office, only 2 years. So if you have any questions regarding LIT, she says reach out to Fred Van Dorp. I personally enjoy Fred very much. I think he's an excellent resource. Can't say enough about how great Fred is. And he will definitely take any time necessary to explain to you whatever you need to know regarding that and many other topics, since Fred went from Auditor of State's office to DLGF. So he knows a lot about everything in the background there going on. Every pay period, switching to payroll deductions, every pay period you're going to have deductions that need to be paid out. In Fulton County, we do the taxable fringe benefits bi-weekly, or I'm sorry, just once a month, second pay of the month. Bi-weekly, you're going to handle PERF, federal taxes, 457B, and child support. And then monthly, you're going to do all your health deductions, vision, and dental, and state taxes. She said that she'll give you some examples of what she does in Stark County, but I gave you examples of what I do in Fulton County. So if you have a deputy in your office that handles this, she did not. The previous auditor in Stark County paid out all the deductions, so she was learning for herself. So sounds like Rachel might have some good advice for you and stories she could share on that. And then child support, she gives you the link here for the child support login. Child support's paid bi-weekly, and your financial software does have, I'm sure, we have LAO in our county, and I know they have reports that you can spit out for all those deductions very simply. and then make sure you get your child support over to the clerk's office as soon as possible. Any information that you need to be changed, addresses, I know sometimes child support can be changed, fluctuates if you have a new child or a child that has fallen off child support. So you want to make sure you get any of those changes in immediately and let them know. The electronic federal tax payment system, the EFTPS, is where you're going to report your federal taxes. I know recently we made a change to the way that we report taxes. We used to call in and we switched over to online reporting. There was a little bit of a delay in that, so you want to be very careful if you switch over to online reporting. I know it threw off our reporting there for about the first payment we made, it was a little bit delayed, so we had to work with, we had to work with somebody over that office to try to straighten that out, to make sure that the payments were going to the right time period that they were collected on. So that did take a minute to work out. Make sure you keep an eye on your EFTPS and see that those are being applied for the correct collection period. But they were really good. We were racking up penalties there for a minute, so that's why you want to stay on top of it. If you have penalties, they're really good about waiving them if they can find that that was truly just an error and you were reporting correctly. We've had good luck with that anyway. And if you need any changes, contact the IRS to make those changes immediately. I know as a new auditor coming in, you're going to have a lot of new things that you're going to report to the IRS. Your contact information, replacing the old auditor with your information. That usually takes a minute to try to get worked out. But make sure you're checking all of those different places that you need to change the auditor's information. Like Jennifer was saying, the 1099s and W-2s, you're going to need to update your IRS, air, and fire information. Is there anything else you can think of off the top of your head? State and federal taxes. All great places to check first day in office if possible. We're giving them a lot of first day in office. And then any questions? Oh, sorry, I skipped one. This is your monthly deductions for your Indiana state taxes. Same kind of thing. You want to make sure you're reporting your taxes within the first day or day of, if possible, of paying them out. Those penalties get very steep very quickly and can accumulate if you hit in a certain amount of time. So you want to make sure those are out the door as soon as possible after processing payroll. Same day is best practice, just to make sure it's done. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. And then here's Rachel's information if you would like to contact her about any of her slides or information on any of those topics. And then my topic to present is going to be the 100R, which is part of your annual financial report. You're going to do that the same time you're going through and doing your annual financial report. It's your report of certified names, addresses, duties, and compensation of public employees. Your statement of wages and compensation is going to be presented in the executive meeting of the January. When you take office, you're going to make that report in the commissioners meeting at the beginning of the year. It's going to include all of the employees, county officers and deputies, address of the business, which the business can be interpreted as the administration office. It doesn't have to be specific to the address that they physically work at. And unless your county has a secretary of the commissioners or county administrator that's been designated to do this, most likely you're going to do it as the secretary of the commissioners. Your personnel report, approval of the budget or supplemental information. This is going to get into the annual financial report just a little bit because they coincide. If you have an employee who wishes to remain confidential on this report, there is a way to work around that. I did not put that in the slide, but if you contact State Board of Accounts, they can give you a workaround for that. Sometimes you may have an employee who has a restraining order or something against someone and they don't want them to know their address. But I did come across that when I was putting together the slideshow. I can't remember exactly where I saw it, but if you reach out to State Board of Accounts, I'm sure they could tell you how to work around that. Here's your failure to report. If you don't make your report timely, there is very serious consequences. And this next slide here, the state examiner has gone a little bit further and can get the Office of the Attorney General involved. You can be subpoenaed, you can be fined, you can actually lose your office for not filing these reports. So they're super important that they get done on time. The 100R needs to be filed by the end of January. For the annual financial report, you have until the end of February. But here's where you're going to do that reporting at. It's on the gateway system. So if you're an auditor who has left office and come back, this might be new to you since you've left office. And this is what that website looks like. You log in here and it'll take you straight to all of your reporting that you need to do. There's monthly engagements, annual engagements, and it'll also give you a timeline of when each of these reports are due. So it's a good idea to get in there early in the year and at least look into your calendar for the year and what's due when. State Board of Accounts also has a calendar. It's actually in the auditor's manual on State Board of Accounts website. If you scroll down and find the manual, there's a very good calendar of what happens every month and what you're due to report every month. So that's another great resource. This slide just says where you can go if you need help to set up your gateway login information. You're going to need that right early on also. So Lori Rogers and Ricky Hoffer are going to be your contacts for county information. This is the information you're going to need to compile before you even begin your 100R. You're going to want a list of all the employees that worked for the government the prior year. Like I said, the business address can be the administration office address. You don't have to list the jail address for the jailers, the sheriff's department address for the deputies. What I do in Fulton County is just list the auditor's office because that's where we hold all the records. Job title and total compensation. And then this is what it looks like when you get in there to start doing your 100R. You'll have 7 total questions on this report. First one is just asking how many employees you've had during the year. Your payroll software, when you go to generate this report, it should have the number of employees on there pretty easily, but it can get complicated, and we'll see here in a minute how it can get complicated. Number 2 question is how you want to upload, or if you want to enter it manually. Personally, I like the upload option. It's a lot quicker, easier, and a whole lot less room for human error, so that works out great. Like I said, I have LOW system, and it spits out the report exactly as you need to upload it, and it makes it super simple. You can get this report done probably 10 minutes or less, and then after you go through, you can double check it and make sure all your information was accurately reported. And this is how to extract it from LOW if you have LOW. It really is that simple. Scroll down, find the 100R report, pull everybody over, give your dates there, and it automates the report, and it's ready to upload straight from your desktop. Here's questions 3, 4, 5, and this is going to help determine what all you're going to need to upload with your information. These are more questions on benefits offered. Question 6 is asking if you have a nepotism policy, which all counties are required to have. The nepotism policy is going to tell you that you cannot directly supervise anyone who is a relative. IC Code 36-1-20.2 is going to establish all those minimum requirements, but your county executive can go over and above that if they choose to. A relative is defined as any of these. I know personally in Fulton County we do get questions on, I don't know, my brother's wife works at the highway department, can I hire the wife? According to this, it looks like you can. So if your county chooses not to, they would need to write a nepotism policy that would allow for that to become included in this relative category. And here's your definition of direct line of supervision. I'm not going to read it. You all can read, but that just gives you an idea of you're directing the employee, so you cannot be in direct line of supervision with any of those people listed as a relative. And then the last question is, do you have a contracting policy, which is very similar to the nepotism policy. So here's your contracting policy. You're not going to be able to have a pecuniary interest in and having a contract with someone else. So you cannot profit from a contract that you have in place. A relative can profit from that, but you cannot. And both of those things can be included in the same document. We have that in our county. When you upload that, you are going to upload the same document for each of those, which is fine. It really helps, I think, to do it both in the same because they're very similar anyway. And then here it explains, in the past, the hard copy, the 100R, initially listed compensation as a by unit for the wage, per hour, per year, I mean, whatever your unit should be. And then in January of 2015, they changed that to be the entire compensation for the year. It made things easier to compare from county to county. So it was a cleaner report. And this is where I say it could get a little bit more complicated than just pulling the report from your payroll. All compensation and benefits paid to the officials and employees must be included. And then it explains what employees are. This one explains what a non-employee is. A non-employee would not be compensation to an individual. It would be to an organization. However, State Board of Accounts uses the IRS definition of an employee for the 100R. IRS considers all elected officials, including board members, as employees. So if you issued a W-2 to a person, then that person could also be listed on your 100R depending on whether or not you had oversight over that employee and control over that. I can't think of a situation offhand right now where we have that in Fulton County. Possibly election workers for the day could have a W-2 and not be on your payroll report, but should still be reported on the 100R. Seasonal, temporary, any employee that you paid through payroll and possibly through W-2 over the course of the year should be listed on this 100R. There should be no one who you paid compensation to left off. And then the advertisement requirement is prescribed in 5-3.1 or 5-3-1. I'm going to back up here for a minute. It does have to be posted at the courthouse door and 2 other places in the county. We have our administration building separate from our courthouse, so we post it in our annex building and our courthouse, and then I chose the library as the 3rd place to post it at. So that gets all of our requirements covered, in all very, very public places that anyone has access to at any time. And then I listed a page here just with the resources where I gathered this information, where you can go and read more information about it or double check any of the things in here if you want more information. This is all the resources that I used. So that is the end of my presentation, and I will pass it over to Debbie.
Thank you, Christina. All right. Christina touched on the AFR in her presentation, that the 100R is something you must complete by January 31st. It does kind of kick off your annual financial reporting to State Board of Accounts. So in the same website, the Indiana Gateway website that she gave you some screenshots to, you will complete your annual financial report. And I brought the way I organize my annual financial report. What I do, because some of you will be audited every other year, most of us will be audited next year due to the CARES Act money that our counties received. So most of us can expect an annual an audit for 2020. What I do is I just go through that gateway segment. I start going through and start now is what I would say. Go into your annual financial report in Indiana Gateway and begin to look at some of the subjects that you could do rather quickly. Things like your surety bonds, you have to report that. So it doesn't have to be on you, the auditor, to do all of this. It is on you to verify everything, sign off on it, and make sure before you actually submit your report that everything is done correctly. But you could have some folks helping you out in the office to gather some of this information. First of all, there's a unit questionnaire. It's brief. You can go through the questions, answer those, get that checked off. To the departments, that is also something that doesn't change that much from year to year. So if you develop for yourself, if you're a new auditor or a second term auditor, wherever you're at, if you will develop a file, a physical file, I would recommend. You can do it electronically. If you are a no paper person, it works the same. But you will start to compile your AFR in a way that you have all of your supporting documentation, so that when it comes audit time, if you're in every other year audit, it's tough, because you're going to be doing 2 years at one time. So to remember what happened 2 years ago, this will be your reminder. You'll have all of your supporting documentation in a file folder with subjects, all of the subjects that are in your annual financial report. So I just methodically start going through mine, and that's kind of where I start. I start now just doing some of the simple things. Getting your bonds together, your department list, you can do all of that. And you can skip around to do some of these things that you don't have to have your financial system to finish. There's questions about pensions. You could, if you have HR, use your HR people to complete some of these sections. One that was added to the annual financial report last year was the pensions, and that would include things that were previously on the DLGF side of the reporting, but it will all be an annual financial, and they will have a opinion on the pensions that we're reporting now through the annual financial report. Financial assistance to non-government entities, that's usually pretty quick, because those are appropriated if you have 4-H and you make a public or a financial assistance donation to some of these nonprofit organizations in your county. You can start pulling those together now and getting those ready. Most of those donations have already probably been paid out sometime earlier in the year, so you can start completing that portion of the annual financial report. So just open each one of them up. Schedule of officials, that's a quick and easy. You can go through and just double check. Some of them may not have changed from last year, so you can refer to your reports from the previous year. Just go through, get those completed, and check that one off of the list. Now you start getting into some things that take a little more time when you're getting into your debt and leases. Those are reported separately. So you need to identify what is a debt, what is a lease. You have your bonds, you have your loans, and you have your leases. So you'll go through that section. Work with your accounts payable folks, and if you have someone who does your receipting, manages your general ledger, that's a great resource for you in your office, and you will be using your financial system to confirm these payments, verifying these payments that you've made, and reporting those in your annual financial report. There are files that can be uploaded from your financial system. One, and this is the largest one and the biggest section of your annual financial report, which is the financial data by fund. That you will need to, you want to have in place a process where once you complete a section of your annual financial report, someone else, as an internal control, is proofing and looking at your numbers and the information that you're reporting. If you just load something up from your financial system and it hasn't been verified, and then the audit time comes and they start saying, where did these numbers come from? If things are not coded correctly in your financial system, it's possible you're going to get an upload that's missing some information. And then they'll say, well, who checked your numbers? That would be the next question to you as the auditor. Who checked your numbers? So that's an internal control that they're looking for in your annual financial reporting process, is who checked you if you're the one that put all the numbers in. So as you can upload your financial data by fund from your system, but then go in and print out another report that can confirm those numbers. And that's where you may find some errors. You may find you have a negative expense somewhere in a report. So you want to look for some errors that you might have in your system to get those things corrected, so that your beginning balance, first of all, confirm that that matches your ending balance from last audit, or the previous year, and then that your ending balance matches what your system reports as your cash balance for each one of your funds. Capital assets, there's a segment in there where you're going to report. You may have to rely on a few other offices. You will have to reach out to your highway department for the value of your surfaces, your roads, all of that for the annual financial report. Also buildings, that may be something you'd reach out to your commissioner's office for. To get an accurate report of buildings, because oftentimes they are the ones who are insuring those buildings, so they know the current values. And fixed assets, however those are tracked in your county, you're going to have to pull together all of your equipment and anything that is over a fixed asset value for your county. You need to include that in your assets report. Accounts payable, receivable, that is just reporting. Accounts payable, that is your encumbrances. When you report your accounts payable, those are the outstanding payables for the current year. You're reporting what was outstanding and what have I encumbered money into 2021 to pay 2020 expenses. That's your accounts payables. And then your accounts receivables, that may not be an exact, but you know the revenue that you expect every month. And if something is still outstanding that you haven't received through a state ACH distribution, go through and find out what those are. If your settlement is late and you haven't received your settlement in, you may have some things like that outstanding. It shouldn't be late. I shouldn't say that. Your settlement will be on time. Okay, so now I'm going to skip on down to transfer schedule. That is where you transfer monies between funds. A lot of times you'll see things transferred. As an example, I had several transfers into the rainy day fund, and that was because we had some dormant funds. So I prefer, and I will say this, to do my transfers by claim. I have created a paper trail. And so then when it comes time to do your annual financial report, you have a paper trail to show that this was a dormant fund, it was approved by a resolution by the council, and then it was placed in the rainy day by resolution. So you'll have funds like that throughout the year. Maybe not, if you're a first or second year auditor, maybe not, maybe you won't tackle that, but you will find funds each year that it's sitting dormant. You're not seeing activity, receipts coming in, expenses going out, and so you want to investigate, where did that money come from? Where does it go back to if it's not spent? Or can it be a dormant fund? Is it a dormant fund that then can be transferred into the general fund or the rainy day fund? It has to be by resolution from the council. So I think I have touched on everything in the annual financial report. That was pretty quick. It's not a quick process. Just be methodical about it. Try to complete one section at a time. There are some sections that are more complex. Your grants and your funds, your financial data by funds, you are going to go in and out of those as you investigate things or have someone helping you with your grants, reporting your grants. That is a very complex process. You must report your grant titles as they are in SAMs. As the federal feds name these grants, that's the way you must report them. And so that is complex. And I would tell you, if you are doing an annual financial report for the first time, don't try to do it by yourself. Call one of us, call someone, reach out and get a little bit of detail on where you go to find the information that goes in that, what we refer to, another acronym as CFA, your your schedule of expenditures, federal awards. So we get so used to using acronyms, and then we roll them off to you all, and you don't even know what we're talking about. But it is all of your federal grants, and you will receive, if you're over, well, no matter what your amount is, whether you're audited every other year or every year, you will now receive a separate federal grant or federal audit if you haven't already in your county. So again, my visual aid, it looks like old school, but I can tell you, I hand this over to my auditors when they come in to do my audit, and there is very little that they have to come back and ask me for in terms of leases, debt, anything I've reported in my annual financial report. So reach out again, as we keep saying to you all, reach out to us, use us as resources, email us, call us, come and have lunch if you're close enough. Melissa Bunner, you are. So we're here to help you with all of these things. And I don't want to oversimplify it or overcomplicate it, but take your annual financial report very seriously. I will add this. It's important. Your annual financial report, your audits, influence a lot of things. It influences your S&P rating. It influences your eligibility for grants, and more grants, because they will ask you for your last audit report. And all of these things that end up in that report and comments or findings or whatever plays into that, and your credit rating, your overall credit rating. So don't take it lightly. Don't stress out about it because you have help. Just give us a call. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Vicki.
Okay, I get to talk about tax abstract. Now, for the brand new auditors who have never gone into the auditor's office before now, you might find yourself in a situation that I was in, where you heard the term tax abstract, and you knew it was something really big and really significant, but you really didn't know what it meant, and you couldn't really find anyone who could tell you, what does it mean? You may feel like it's really abstract. It's a really abstract concept, and what is it? Well, don't freak out, don't worry. It's not that abstract at all. It's actually one of the most significant things that you will do as county auditor. But it's really an exciting time, and it's one of my favorite jobs that we have to do as county auditors. What tax abstract does is it results in a document, or files, if you will, that reports all of your assessed values in each of your taxing districts, all of your deductions, all of your exemptions, all of your TIF values, and your tax rates based on actual tax billing. It is one of the steps that you need to take in order to turn these files over to the treasurer in order to print your property tax bills. And as we all know, property taxes tend to be the biggest source of support for most units of local government. So it is really a significant endeavor that you will undergo very early on in your tenure as county auditor, because you typically need to complete the tax abstract by March. I like to think of tax abstract as really an exciting culmination of just about everything that you do during the course of the year when it comes to property taxes. What are some of those things? Well, it begins with the assessors turning over to you their assessment files, in which the assessors will place a value on every piece of property in your county. You upload these files, and then when you look in your tax system, you're going to see these new values that are assigned to each of those parcels for the following year. Now, during the course of the year, we county auditors adjust these values all the time, usually almost on a daily basis, if not on a daily basis. How do we adjust it? Well, a taxpayer comes in and files for a homestead deduction, a mortgage deduction, an over 65 deduction or a disabled veterans deductions. There are companies that have been awarded tax abatements and those values change every year. So we make those adjustments to those AVs. And then we go through the process that leads up to the all-important CNAV. That stands for Certified Net AVs, and by state statute, these must be done by August 1st of each year. And CNAVs are, just as the name implies, they are your gross assessed values less all of the deductions and the TIF values that are withheld from the normal AVs. And now we're into the fall, and we're getting into the budget hearing season. And as a result of the budget hearings, you will receive, as it was mentioned earlier, your county's budget order. And the budget order has a lot of good information, but it also has a whole listing of all of the tax rates that are going to be charged on your next year's tax bills. And of course, in those cases, if you don't get your budget order until January, it'll be that year's tax bills. So what does all of this have to do with tax abstract? It has everything to do with tax abstract, because shortly after you get the your budget order, you're going to probably start working on your tax abstract. Now, there are a number of steps that you need to take to complete tax abstract before you submit it for approval to the state. And I don't want to go into all of those steps because it's going to be dependent on your individual property tax vendor exactly what you need to do. So please work closely with your tax vendor. They will undoubtedly offer you assistance either in person or virtually or by email, because you will need to complete the process according to the system that you have for property taxes. But one of the steps that all counties do need to do is filling out what's called a property tax relief workbook. The state will send you this workbook, and what you see on the screen here is the top portion of the Excel spreadsheet of this workbook for Porter County. You'll need to put in the values representing your property tax relief fund balances. Like I said, most of this workbook is pre-populated for you. Once you enter the data that you need to enter for your county, more values will be populated. And you can also see that there's tax rates in this workbook, as well as your referendum rates. Do check to make sure that those referendum rates are correct. So another part of the tax abstract process that you will need to do is that you will need to import those tax rates from the DLGF that you are given. You will also have to run what we call bill calcs. This is running the tax calculations, and this is a really exciting time because if you go into your tax system, like right now, you look up a parcel, look up your own property, and you look for the pay 2021 tax year, you're not going to see a whole lot of data there. Other than your assessments and your deductions. But once you run bill calcs, then everything populates. You're going to see how much you're actually going to be billed in that tax year because bill calcs calculates the tax bills. So let's take a look at some of the reports that we generate as part of the tax abstract process. Now, this slide will show you one of the areas that is contained in a spreadsheet that's generated as part of abstract. And let me tell you, this spreadsheet is just gargantuan. It is absolutely huge, but it contains such valuable information. This particular slide shows you the total taxes that are charged and in each of the taxing districts, as well as the delinquencies. Here we see a rundown of the land values, the improvement values, and all of the deductions broken down by each of the tax districts. So if you want to say, for example, what does ABC tax district have in terms of total value of homestead deductions, you will be able to find it from this this particular spreadsheet. This next one will continue giving you the total of your real estate values, your personal property values, and your utilities. And then we keep walking through this spreadsheet, and we're going to see total net assessed value and the all-important tax rates. And then you're going to see the breakdown of the tax cap buckets, the 1%, 2%, and 3% buckets. Now, for you county auditors who don't know what I just said, 1%, 2%, 3%, believe me, you will know these tax cap buckets like the back of your hand very, very soon, because you are going to be dealing with the tax caps a great deal. Now, the next slide is going to show you the breakdown of the taxes for all of the individual units. So now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of running the bill calculations. Here you could see in each of our taxing districts how much taxes are expected to be generated, how much taxes will be billed for, let's say, the county general fund, the county reassessment fund, and the cumulative bridge fund, and so forth. And if you keep going down the spreadsheet, you're going to see the same breakdown for schools, townships, and libraries. It is just a load of information. And this slide continues with some more of the information. I believe that this one shows you the current taxes as well as all of the delinquent taxes. Now, that huge abstract spreadsheet, it has been around for quite a while, and up until just a few years ago, I think it's fair to say that that was the tax abstract document. But now things have changed a little bit, where the tax abstract process also produces files that you need to upload to the state's gateway site. This screen shows you a part of the state's abstract user guide. If you go to the DLGF's webpage, you can find a manual that will show you step by step of what to do with these abstract files and how you upload them to Gateway. And it is not as difficult as a process as it may seem. Now, let's take a look at some of these reports that are presented on the Gateway site. Basically, it's all of the information that's in that big spreadsheet that we just sort of walked through, but it's compiled in a different way. It's presented in a different way for the public. And all of this data is on the Gateway site for the public to see. Now, this is, I'm just going to show you just a few of the reports that will be generated. This one is the AV summary, and it shows you the assessed value for each of your taxing districts and all of the adjustments that were made in terms of the deductions, your total AV, the TIF AV, and then your total adjusted AV. Now, here's a circuit breaker report, and this is one of my favorite parts of this whole abstract that's on Gateway, because it really breaks down the circuit breaker impact on your county's finances, as well as all of your taxing units. The one that you see here is for the county, the Porter County, and you can see how it shows what the total levy was. This shows how much we billed to the taxpayers, but then it also shows the impact of the circuit breaker adjustments and how much that has impacted the total levy. Now, now, we mentioned before that you have received your budget order. The budget order also contains the levy, but what's interesting is that the levy that's in that budget order is not necessarily the same as what you're actually going to be billing your taxpayers. If you take a look at our county's general fund, you will see that the difference between what was in our budget order is about $1.4 million less than what we actually billed. So that's a very interesting piece of information that you can glean from the abstract. Here's the district summary page that will show you all of the AVs by districts, once again, broken down by the 1%, 2%, 3% category. So if you want to find out, for example, how much circuit breaker credits were applied to any given taxing district in, let's say, the 2% category, you would be able to look at this section of the report and find it here. And now this last one is the total taxes summary report that really brings it all together, that shows you the total taxes that you charge, all of the credits, and the total levy. Now, let's move to a different report that is generated by the tax abstract. This is what's called the tab rate chart. Some of us call it the tax rate chart because that's what it does. It really shows all of the tax rates for each of the taxing districts, broken down by each of your taxing units, like your county unit, your schools, your townships, your cities and towns. And it even goes further into each of those funds. Now, I have a very special relationship with this chart. And that's because in the old days, and we're talking about really, really the old days, this tax rate chart has been around a long time. But in the old days, before even Gateway, there wasn't a lot of public information that was readily available. Now, I was a newspaper reporter in those old days, and I just lived for this tax rate chart to be released. I couldn't wait for it to be released. I would write newspaper stories just about this tax rate chart because there was so much information that you could get out of it. For example, take any taxing district. How much proportionately of your property taxes goes to the schools, how much goes to the county, and how much goes to, say, a township? It can be used for a lot of analysis and a lot of comparisons. And I'm personally very happy that we still have this tax rate chart that's generated. I sort of call this chart the chart that sort of taught me so much about local government finance and how property taxes work and how tax rates are divvied up. So when you do generate this tax rate chart or tab rate chart, you will have to publish it in the newspaper that you publish in at 3 times before the tax bills are due. So do watch for this, and I would like to recommend that you do proofread these tax rates. And how we do it in our office is that we just take the budget order and we just go taxing unit by taxing unit, fund by fund, and just proofread it just to make sure that there was no glitchy things that happened as part of the generation of this report. So in closing, don't be afraid about tax abstract. It is work. There are steps you will have to do. Your tax vendor will undoubtedly be on hand to help you. But it's exciting because the amount of information that is going to be generated as a part of this process is just overwhelming, and it's very, very useful information. If a lot of times you will be called upon by local taxing units to answer something about property taxes, and you can probably find the answer in one of your tax abstract reports. So again, work closely with your vendor. Make sure that you submit all of your tax abstract data to the state on a timely basis. Once you receive abstract approval from the state, you then essentially get the green light to tell the treasurer, go and print the tax bills. And then you might get a little bit of a reprieve in your office where you won't be working too much on a lot of things related to property taxes, at least for a few days, because before you know it comes the tax bill due dates. You're going to have taxpayers coming to your office asking to explain the tax bill, asking you if there was a mistake with your tax bill. And then right around the corner after that comes the next phase of tax abstract and its settlement. That's where you actually disperse all of the money to the taxing unit. So it all kind of goes around the tax abstract project. So that concludes my presentation on tax abstract. We are going to take a very short break, and we will return for a fireside Q&A. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We are here for a fireside chat, taking your questions, and hopefully we will be able to provide some answers. Once again, we want to thank the AIC for allowing us use of their facilities. As you can see, we are socially distanced as we gather here in Indianapolis. So hopefully we have some questions from the audience.
I have a question. Who pays for the bond? Who pays for your public official bond?
So in our county, the county commissioners have a line item for bonds, and they pay for all the elected officials, with the exception, the highway department has their own line item, and our Clay County Redevelopment Commission members also have to be bonded, and they have a line item in their budget for bonds. But most of them are paid from the county commissioner's line item.
It's the exact same in Fulton County except for the highway department. The commissioners also pay for the highway department. The redevelopment commission pays their own bond.
And that's how it is in Porter County as well.
Same as Fulton and Porter.
Okay. How has coronavirus affected your office operations?
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first because mine
Okay.
was easy.
Okay.
We were rotating staff there for, I think it was a total of 7 weeks. We had 2 days with half the staff, the other 2 days, the other half of the staff, and then closed for 1 day. Okay, and then closed for Friday. And then after that was all done and over with, people started coming back to work. Masks are required by the public, but currently we don't have anything going on. We have, other than masks, we don't have any closures. There's nothing special other than the masks right now. So.
Next.
Okay. Well, I'll go sequentially. I'll start with the first wave back in the spring. Like most counties, we were shut down. It was very, very challenging. It was very, very difficult. We were ordered essentially to have people working remotely or at a skeleton crew in the office. And I had some deputies who just were overwhelmed by the sheer amount of the workload. In our county, as I think is the case elsewhere in Indiana, interest rates are very low. So just about everyone and their brother has seemingly refinanced. It was very difficult to get this amount of work done when literally half of your staff is out of the office and working under these very stressful situations. And I won't dwell on this, but we are one of the GAP counties, and this was our first year of presenting a GAP report, which is the annual financial report on steroids. It's extensive. It's actually a great report. I loved working on it. I loved working on it every single weekend during that time, as did my staff, I believe, because we just could not get it done. And we didn't do our GAP process the way that I had envisioned, with weekly staff training meetings and sit-downs, but there's always another year for that. Now, let's go more into the fall. Currently, we are open to the public, but we are trying to be creative. We are trying to remote work when we can. And for the individuals who can't remote work, or the ones who really just don't want to, they are in the office. We're socially distanced. We have tried to come up with really creative ways of making this work. We have people at home working the phone log. We have an interactive phone log that's happening so that the people back in the office can respond. Keeping up with these mortgage deductions is overwhelming. My chief deputy and I have been in the office literally very late at night for numerous nights in a row, trying to keep up with everything. It has been difficult. But there's another dimension of COVID that all of us have had to deal with, and you new auditors will also have to deal with it, and Debbie, you mentioned it. We have had to administer all of these CARES Act grants, and we have to be meticulous in the record keeping. And so that's going to continue with us for into the audit year next year. So it has definitely had an impact in our county.
I think my situation during COVID, during the last 8 months, I guess we're into now, similar. not knowing what we were dealing with early on, we did the part remote, part in the office, and as Vicki stated, that was extremely difficult, and the bulk of the work was falling on just a handful of people at a time. It was very stressful. It was stressful for the staff too. Even those who really loved the idea of remote work and wanted to make it work, ours is a tough office to try to work remotely. And we became more innovative in the way we interacted with the public because our facility was closed down completely to the public, first by appointment only, and then we closed down completely. And so that kind of pushed us to do things differently, more electronic interaction with our customers, using a Dropbox for those who just didn't use internet and things like that to help our taxpayers and get things done. And I think we did a fantastic job given all of the challenges that we had. And as Vicki mentioned also, the number of refis that were coming into our office, it was just off the charts. But we kept up, and we've been open to the public since probably mid-May. We were downsized in staff, then closed, back open, kind of open the same way we closed by appointment, and then we've been fully open. We're orange, I believe, in our where we're at right now. It kind of goes up, comes down, but me personally, my preference is be open. You know, the folks that we're serving are going to work every day. I prefer to be at work every day.
In our county, the commissioners closed down our courthouse for 6 weeks, but they did give the capability to the office holders to decide when their staff should be in or not. In my particular office, I'm the only one who could work remotely. My staff did not have laptops. I coordinated with the county recorder and the county assessor that we would always be in the office on Mondays and Tuesdays, full staff in my office, to process all the deeds that were coming in, to try to keep up on everything so the title searchers were not falling behind. We did set up computers in the recorder's office because she had a really big search room where they could have one from the clerk's office and one from mine. So title searchers were only in one office in the building when they came in. They did have to schedule the appointment to let them know, so we only had no more than 3 title searchers in that room at a time. After that 6 weeks was up, my payroll deputy did come in a little bit extra to make sure payroll was done in a timely manner. After that 6 weeks was up, we came in for 1 week and worked by appointment only. Then we opened back up to the public, and we've been open to the public with full staff since about mid-May. Masks are required. My office is a small office, but yet where their desks are, they're 6 foot apart, so they don't have to wear masks 24/7. While they're there, they only have to wear them when they go up to the counter to assist a taxpayer or if they leave the office to go to another office. It has had an impact. The CARES Act has been a struggle, but I am blessed with a wonderful EMA director who has worked with me side by side to make sure that we're getting everything taken care of, and with our IT director involved as well. So we've been able to keep everything afloat, and everything has been done timely, and I'm grateful for that. But the mortgage exemptions have been a real struggle because you've got that huge report now for everybody who's refinanced. You know, we have to remove all the old deductions, and then the people come in, you have to apply the new ones back on. So that has probably been the most tedious thing that we've seen during this epidemic.
To tag back onto that, I've never seen mortgage release reports like we've had lately. They are thick.
Yeah, they're huge. So I'm hoping legislation gets something done this year and takes those lovely little mortgage exemptions away from us.
Yes, it's very much an inefficient use of taxpayer money, and I think most taxpayers would prefer to have their homestead upped a little bit, get rid of the mortgage deduction.
What does 1%, 2%, 3% mean?
4%, 5%.
1%, 2%, 3%, but
Okay.
what does that mean?
Who wants to go?
Go
Yeah,
for it, Vicki.
okay.
Vicki?
You brought the subject up, tax
Okay.
caps. Okay.
Those are the tax cap buckets. And essentially, it means that it caps your taxes based on that percentage, with some exceptions. Of course, everything with property taxes, there's an asterisk mark you have to say. The 1% category refers to homesteads, owner-occupied homesteads. So at 1%, that means that your tax bill cannot go above 1% of your gross assessed value. So let's say that your gross assessed value is $200,000, and it is a completely a homestead, a home on up to 1 acre of land. Let's do the math. Your tax bill cannot exceed $2,000, correct?
Right.
Well, that's not exactly true, because if you have a school referendum there, the referendum is exempted from the tax cap. So let's put it this way, that 1% only applies to the non-referendum part of your tax bill. But if you don't have a referendum, like a school referendum, then the tax cap is that 1% of your gross assessed value. It's the same for the 2% category, which refers to agricultural lands, farmlands, and residential units that are not owner-occupied. For example, rental units, apartments, long-term living facilities. And then the 3% cap is just about everything else. It's businesses, it's industries, it's the land in excess of 1 acre homestead. So let's say that you own 5 acres and a home. Your home and 1 acre is on the 1%, but your remaining 4 acres is probably on the 3%.
That was fantastic.
Unless you live on a farm.
Unless you live on a farm.
Like I
knew
do.
it, I knew it.
Like I
Unless
do.
you live on a farm. Because
Another exemption.
your farm portion will be the 2% cap, yes. So of course, it's most advantageous to be in 1%.
Okay. What if you could give auditors just one piece of advice? What would it be?
Know your calendar for the year. Due dates, what's going on every month.
Mine would be not to be afraid to ask for help. If you are sitting there thinking, well, I'm probably the only person who doesn't understand this, I guarantee you, you are not. There are several, and you might be the one that speaks up that helps someone else that's afraid to speak out. So always ask for help when you need it.
Mine would be very similar. To reach out, make best friends with your state agencies. They mentioned Fred Van Dorp earlier. He was my best friend my first couple of years. I might not have been his best friend, but he was my best friend because he was so wonderful to respond when he was in the state auditor's office, and he is still the same in the DLGF. Great resource for us as auditors. Again, Ricky and Lori at the State Board of Accounts. If you can communicate with them by email, send them an email. It might take them a day or two, but they are 100% faithful to respond to your questions. And again, if you feel comfortable reaching out, please do. Even if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to us, you don't have to email the whole Auditors Association. It might be best if you don't. Email one of your officers here, and we'll respond to you when you have questions and just don't know where to start with certain things. We're here to help.
And to add to hers, on the Auditor of State's office, Janie or Kim are wonderful to work with.
Yes, I should have mentioned that Fred did have a replacement.
And Jamie was a former
Yes.
former auditor's office employee.
Yes.
I'm going to piggyback just a little bit. I'm really not in the fireside chat, but on Christie's statement of knowing the calendar. That calendar can be followed in those county bulletins that come out.
Absolutely.
And if you could tell them where they might be able to find their county bulletins.
Sure. On in.gov/SBOA, if you go to the county specific information, is that right? No.
Yes.
Okay, and then choose your county auditor link, and it'll take you right where your manual is. Right next to that is where all of your bulletins are. There's even an index for that bulletin, so you can look things up by category. It is by far an excellent source of information. That's really, if you can do anything else but just sit down and look at the index for those bulletins just to see what all is there. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. That's a great place to find out what you don't know exists. So those are excellent sources of information.
And it sets your calendar for the next quarter.
Absolutely, yep. You can plan by those bulletins very well. You always know what's going to come up. Really high importance in an audit based on what's in those bulletins too. If you watch closely, you'll see how those kind of track. They'll let you know, and then maybe a year or two later, you're going to find that that's going to be a hard point in your audit.
I have one question left. What is the best part of your job, and what's the worst part?
I'd go first. Best part for me is I have this awesome work family, and they, we're hitting all cylinders every day, and we have a good time. And of course, the taxpayers, the people that come into the office, I love it. I didn't like it when we were closed to the public, and I love the interaction of the public coming into the office and being able to serve them and help people. I'm on the side of the taxpayer. I am that auditor because that's who we work for. And so when they come in the office and they need help, that is like, we want to be the Chick-fil-A, my pleasure people when they come into our office. So that's my most favorite part of it. Least favorite, do I have to say on a recorded? I don't think I will say.
I'm going to piggyback a little bit on you. I'll say my least favorite. Dealing with requests for penalties. That's hard because many requests for penalties deal with personal financial hardship. And my heart breaks for a lot of the taxpayers, especially when we're living in a recession and in COVID. However, we have to be fair to all taxpayers, and our county has a policy. We followed the provision in state statute that allowed the county council to establish a specific policy on penalty removals. And if you do not meet one of those provisions, we can't grant you the penalty removal. And that may sound harsh, but what about all the other taxpayers who do pay on time? We need to be fair to everyone. And do keep in mind, if there are any taxpayers out there watching, I think most counties will work with you. We can set up payment plans so that you can pay your taxes eventually. So dealing with penalties is something that I really just dread mostly. But on the positive side, I'm going to jump to what Debbie said here. I really loved working with so many aspects of this job. I loved working on our gap report. I loved working on tax abstract. I think the favorite time of the year is coming up for our office settlement time. We have not completed settlement yet. I love all of that, but I think the top best thing is when you really do help a taxpayer in a somewhat unexpected way. Let me give you an example. I was working the phones last week, and there was a lady that I could not get in touch with, and we kept playing phone tag. And it turns out she was just asking about a mortgage refinancing, our favorite topic, right? So we finally connected by phone. She wanted to know what she needed to do, and I said, ma'am, we can do this. We can just let me help you. I'll get this information. She started talking about her personal situation and how she lives paycheck to paycheck. And I could kind of tell that she was, one of in the golden years. And we got to talking more and more. And while we're talking more and more about her situation and her family life, I'm calling up her tax bill, and I'm noticing that her assessed value is below $200,000. And I said, ma'am, have you lived here for more than a year? And she said, honey, I have lived here since 1940. 42, so I kind of got confirmation that she's above 65. And I said, you mentioned that you're living paycheck to paycheck. You don't have to tell me this, but do you know what your adjusted gross income might be? Well, how do I know? Do you have your tax return? So she brings out her tax return, she tells me her adjusted gross income. Bang, she qualifies for the over 65 deduction.
awesome.
And so we do need to see verification. So she did come into the office, I helped her directly. She got front of the line before everyone, because I had already did most of the work, right? And that kind of stuff really, really makes you feel just so, it's just so rewarding when that does happen.
Well, I'll go next. My least favorite part of the job would be, there are days when it just seems so daunting and so overwhelming that you can't come up for air. But on the other side of that, you always know there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And even though it is stressful at times, it is so rewarding at the end of the day that it is well worth it. And my favorite part of the job is similar to Vicky's. I had a lady come in and she was in tears. This was before I was auditor. And she was so upset because she had been treated so poorly in 2 other offices. And her house was up for tax sale. And nobody had ever, she had been known to be a little bit of a difficult person, and nobody had ever taken the time to really sit down and work with her. I'm a very emotional person, so I cried with her. And she told me, she goes, I'm so sorry. I said, nope, I cry with everybody, you're fine. But I took her out in the hall and we sat and I spent probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes with her. And she had this paper and all she could focus on was this total number, the dollar amount that she had to have. And she was going to lose her home. And this had been in the home for 3 generations. And I said, okay, I want you to take a deep breath and I want you to listen to what I'm about to tell you. Stop looking at that number. It is stressing you out. Quit. I said, here's what we have to look at. We need to look at how much do you have to have before the tax sale starts to get this property out of tax sale. And then from there, we can make a plan to get you current by next May. So I took the time with her to sit down and figure out what we needed. And when she got done, she was so happy because the amount that I gave her was still difficult for her to come up with because, again, she was a paycheck to paycheck person. But she knew with the plan that we sat down and made out, she could come up with that money by the day of the tax sale. She came up with the money the day before the tax sale. And then she came in that day, and I told her, I said, I'm kind of busy today. Come back tomorrow. Tax sales are a little bit stressful. And I said, we will sit down and we will figure out month by month what you have to pay to have you current by next May so that this doesn't happen again. And because of the situation with the 3rd generation, she didn't have all of her exemptions. Everything wasn't properly put into her name. Some of the documents, the attorney had not done everything like they were supposed to. So we were able to finish everything, and then we cut her taxes in more than half of what she was paying. So that was really rewarding. And she came in when I ran for office and offered to go out and campaign for me, put signs out for me, and do anything she could to help me because nobody else had taken the time. So that's a very rewarding thing to have as an elected official.
I would agree with all of that. I think all of those are great stories, and I think we all have some that are similar to that. The best part about the job really is not just the public, but helping department heads being able to work out their budgets, trying to explain their budgets more in depth, give them alternatives in their budget, budgeting for their user fee funds and not just the property tax funds where it's mingled with everybody else's money, but kind of being creative to get department heads the money that they need if it's available to them. I think that's every bit as rewarding as working with the public. It's great when you have the public come in and say thank you so much, and but that's definitely rewarding, just being that steward. And even for the rest of the services in the county, recovery programs, when you know people are falling into a hardship and you can steer them into the right directions just because of doing what you're doing and being so involved with the other community, the other things in the community programs, and knowing people in those different lines to help other people too. That's always great. The worst part of the job is, I don't know if you guys get them, but sovereign citizens. Anybody?
Yes.
I did not know what that meant when I came into office until someone came in, and I had been in conversation with this man for so long, I started shaking my foot behind me at the counter so somebody would realize, pull me out, tell me I have a phone call, do something. But he kept telling me that I don't have to pay taxes because my deed is stored here, and because you all can't be taxed, that means my deed can't be taxed, so I'm tax-free. And they will sit there and go on and keep you as long in conversation as they possibly can. I think, was it the state police that did a presentation at conference a few years ago, and that actually is on YouTube if you Google sovereign citizen. It was fantastic. It really sums it up well, and you know what to look for. And they can become dangerous, so if at any risk, if you have some kind of a signal to the rest of the office behind you to get out of that conversation as quick as you can, that's a good thing to know of. I had no idea what that was. But I also have an excellent staff also. We all help each other, we coordinate with each other, and staff coming to work knowing that you're happy to come to work and look forward to coming to work, and it feels like a family. If you have the blessing of having that kind of relationship, it's fantastic.
And to add one thing to Christina, if you're a small county, bear in mind that all of your deputies will wear multiple hats. They're not, like my payroll deputy is not only a payroll deputy, she's the backup for the deeds. She goes to the counter. And you know, when you have a large county, you're very blessed because you have people who are dedicated to a specific job, and they are so much more streamlined. And it does make a difference. But we all work together well, and just like Christina said, we all have great staffs, and without our staffs, we would not be here today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's all of the questions, and I think we just have a few concluding comments. These are small reminders, but especially for the newly elected auditors. You do pay dues to the Auditor Association, so do watch for that dues letter that we will be sending out probably by email. And the dues will be paid to our new treasurer, which is going to be Christina. So make sure your accounts payable deputies, please change the address from Debbie's to Christina. We deal with that every year. Also, the directories, if you have not returned your survey, your questionnaire that we need for the directory, please do so. For the brand new auditors, we will be reaching out to you. We didn't have all of your emails or all your contact information until, relatively recently. And so please send that questionnaire in. If you need to update your photo, please do so. And please make sure to send that questionnaire in, because we don't want Debbie to have to try to hunt you down to get that information. And with that, I think that we are done with our affiliate meeting. Just want to wish everyone a very, very happy holiday season coming up. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, please enjoy it with you and your family and your loved ones. Please stay safe out there. Thank you.